All right, I know it's been too long. I know I have been on hiatus, if you will, but I feel like that was a pretty good series. That was very informative for anybody who was wondering just how we got where we are. And to follow that up, what I want to do is I want to bring in some of the cast of the story. Like I said, I want you to think of your life as if it were a movie. Well, I think it's time that I introduce you to the starring cast. All of these people are rock stars in their own right, and we're going to talk about some of the things that happened in the past, some of the things that we're looking at in the future, in the very near future, the very distant future, and we're going to talk about some of the trials, tribulations, and tumultuous experiences that got us to where we are and kind of galvanized our friendships and everything that we're doing right now. So we are going to bring in one by one some of the people that you heard about in the story, The Homeless Millionaire, so that you can get to know them just a little bit better. All right, so today the person that I'm bringing in is Zack Markle. I know that you heard about many of his heroic escapades in the story, but today I'm going to interview him, and we're just going to kind of talk about some of the crazy things that we did, some of the scary things we did. I feel like I'm going to have to bring up what's going on with him and Ashley. How serious is that getting? Inquiring minds want to know, man. So anyway, I'll let Zack say hi real quick, and then I'll jump into some questions.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, so man, I've got to ask, since we've kind of relived our past a little bit, and you had a chance to listen to the story that I put together of our life. Realistically, it's not just my life. I mean, you were just as much of a homeless millionaire as I was. What was like the most revealing part for you, your favorite part when you were getting to relive that story and you were thinking about everything again?
I probably liked, can't remember what episode it was, but basically the part where we were homeless again. It was quite a trip down memory lane, and even though we lived that event, hearing you talk about it, it was kind of suspenseful, and it was just crazy hearing about it again.
Yeah, it was funny. I actually had I had Ashley call me after one of those. I think it was one of the ones where like maybe I ended when we were watching Harry Potter, or it was me standing in the poo water or whatever. And she calls me. She goes, "I want to know what happens." And I was like, "You were there." Yeah, it's just such a crazy thing to think of what we've gone through to get where we're at. But I think that if anything, it's more of it's really kind of stapled and really nailed down the fact that we were doing exactly what we should have been doing, and we were with who we should have been with. And it's amazing that we found the people that we found to get through those things, because I know personally I couldn't have done it without you guys.
It's definitely the same for, I think, all of us. There's so many times where, each of us wants to just like stop and this is way too hard, but there's always somebody to pick us up, keep us going.
Yeah, we definitely are running a marathon, even though it seems like we have to sprint most of the time.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, because I think that one of the like the main characters that started coming through, because I was talking to a lot of our students, some of our employees, and people who were like really asking me questions about the Homeless Millionaire. One of the questions that really kept coming up, man, was a lot of the students didn't even know you and Ashley were together.
Well, that was kind of by design, I guess. And then we stopped thinking about it. But in the beginning, it was we were a studio, and we didn't want... Actually, I can't remember the exact reason. We just didn't want to show it off to clients and things like that, because there were so many clients who would have been weird about that, I guess. I can't really remember the actual reason. It's because
they had a giant crush on Ashley.
Well, I'm glad you said it. I didn't want to like... Hey guys, everyone likes my girlfriend. But
it's true. I mean, she is kind of badass. Yeah, it's so let's there's a couple points that I really want to touch on with you specifically. I say, since we've already kind of brought it up, let's start with Ashley, because at the beginning you weren't necessarily the biggest fan of Ashley.
Not at all. We actually talked about this the other day. I came into the picture. The timeline is kind of fuzzy, but it was right before that whole thing happened with Ashley. And as anyone can imagine, the first impression you get of somebody, if it's that, you're not a huge fan of them. So it took a while for me to change my mind on that one.
Yeah, it was crazy because I remember how I don't want to say like it wasn't like you didn't like her. It's just you were definitely a little apprehensive about letting her in because I mean you're very much a stoic person, but like once you break your outer shell, like you're like literally one of the best people to have on your side. So it took her a long time to crack that shell.
Yeah, and actually it was when we were homeless the second time, or the first time, I guess, for me, second time fifth time, who knows what it was for you. But yeah, it was during that homeless time when we really connected and we were actually able to just see past all the crap that had happened and just enjoy each other.
Yeah. Well, I will say like watching you guys, I mean, you guys have been together, what, a little over 2 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Watching you guys kind of blossom into who you are becoming. I mean, it's amazing to watch you guys get stuff done and how you're there for one another. And one of my very favorite things that has come out of this just insane circumstance has been watching you guys like blossom into this crazy just staple of like realistically everything we're doing. It transcends so much of KMG because so many people lean on you and Ashley, and you guys are setting an example of how relationships should be. I think it's great.
Well, I feel like it's the same with a lot of our friendships. When you get kind of backed into a corner, it forces you to be stronger and it kind of brings the best out of you. And so there's been many corners that all of us have been backed into. Yeah. And so that definitely strengthened our relationship. And anytime there's an issue, it just gets easier and easier to get through.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you and I were actually talking about it the other night is because for anyone who doesn't really know who I call Thor, this is Zack. For anyone who doesn't know Thor, he's every bit the alpha male that I am. So as you can imagine, we would bump heads every now and then. And we were actually sitting at dinner actually last night, and we realized that every single year we were together and working, actually it was probably more like every single week it got harder and things were crazier and scarier. And instead of us fighting more, we started fighting less, and we really just started having each other's back more. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen. I can't name another person other than the group that I have right now that kind of thing has happened with.
Yeah, every other time in my life where things get really difficult, you end up fighting a lot more instead of getting closer. It's really strange.
Well, all right. So let's go over a couple of my other like really favorite like Thor moments. You know, I hope through this conversation we're having, I'm gonna be able to find out what is the title of this gonna be. Right now, I think Thor moments is pretty good. You know what I mean?
Some good, some bad.
a hell of a lot more good. Let's talk about. One of my favorite things you and I have ever been through is that bike ride that we went on 100 miles. You and I were nowhere near in shape to pull that off. I think the most we'd ridden was like 30, maybe at the most.
And that was only, I think, once or twice because we had been riding to the studio, which was, I think, 16 or 17 miles. And then we went on like maybe 1 or 2 bike rides that were 30.
And even then, if it was 30, it was we rode our bikes there. And then we worked all day, and then we rode our bikes back. Yeah. So it wasn't even straight.
And people were really confused when we showed up in our spandex.
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting thing. Well, I mean, let's talk about how the fact that when we were fighting it, because I remember there was one time in particular that I really remember was we were just trying to power through it. My knee really started hurting.
I think that was the time where we realized we went like 10 or 12 miles in the wrong direction. And then we had to turn around and go up a giant hill. Yeah. It sounds a lot like the business that we've built. I just, one of my favorite things that of that ride that really hit home for me was I remember you kind of taking off, and I didn't have a prayer to keep up with you. And we were riding and we were riding and we were riding. And I think it was that giant hill. My knee had gotten to start hurting so bad that I stopped at the bottom of the hill. And it was probably, 15 minutes, and you had already made it all the way up the hill. And I'm like, man,
I don't know where he's going. I don't know if I'm even going to see him again. And then all of a sudden, probably about 15 minutes later, I see you at the top of the hill. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. He's going to wait for me. But you didn't wait for me. You rode your bike back down this big ass hill. And then you rode your bike back up the hill when I was ready. So you essentially did the hill twice just so that you could stay with your friend. And I think that is such a testament to just who you actually are. You know what I mean? Like you are the most loyal, over the top, like incredible person that I have in my life in those moments. So what I call people who stand in the gap. If there's a break in the chain anywhere, it's the leaders of your life who are going to come in and grab each link in those chains, and they're going to stand in the gap and keep it together. And man, that was probably when it was most mentally tough for me. And seeing you at the top of the hill gave me an initial set of hope. But when you came back down the hill and then went back up with me, that's when I knew we were going to make it all the way to Boulder. And we were still probably 70 miles away.
Yeah, we were still, I don't even know. I guess we were in Littleton at that point.
Yeah.
So still very far away from Boulder.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think it was right after that. Is that when we stopped at Noodles and Company and got the Caesar salads?
Mm-hmm.
I remember both of us looking, going, there's no way I can eat anything greasy. That is a bad idea. Coincidentally, if a guy named Nick Myers listens to this, he tried to go on one of those rides with Thor and myself. And we were were we doing 50 miles or 100 miles?
I think we started off saying we were going to do 100, but we weren't intending on it.
Oh yeah, we were both just told. Well, he didn't even make it 50 miles, and we literally made him crap himself. So shout out Nick Myers. He's a great guy, but it was hilarious because the whole time he's super in shape, but he was kind of talking crap. And me and Thor did what we do, and he just could not keep up. It was pretty funny.
I forgot about that.
Oh, dude. You know what? Let's reminisce about the good old days, and let's talk about this great story called The Homeless Millionaire. Nah, let's just talk about how my old trainer crapped himself when he tried to keep up.
Well, when you remember that kind of thing, you have to bring it up.
You have to bring it up. Let's talk about some of the crazy things that we did to get up here. How about what's your favorite story about the house when we were trying to get it ready? This house that we're in right now.
It's either the outlets or the water. The water was definitely much more scary. The outlets took a lot longer. I guess the water was probably the craziest time for sure. It was 84 pipe breaks, something around there.
Yeah, 84. I think when we counted, we had like 112 holes in our walls.
Yeah, and I don't remember if it was brought up in the podcast, but one thing I was thinking of when you were telling the story is when we had to punch a wall, or we had to punch a hole in the wall every time there was a pipe break. 99% of the time, it wasn't in the right spot.
Yeah.
So we'd have to punch a hole, see where the thing was at, and then go punch another hole. And sometimes that one was off. So 2 to 3 holes per break.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, we were talking about this because we were kind of talking about this idea with everybody who was really close in this story last night. And apparently Ashley and Zach were cuddling one night, and Zach started talking about outlets in his sleep.
It was a rough time.
There were outlets everywhere.
But I don't know. I've been electrocuted probably about 30 to 50 times now. So I'm not scared of it anymore.
I'm not scared of you. Well, how about let's talk about what it's been like starting this school from scratch. You know, I mean, if anybody out there thinks that cooking from scratch is hard, I mean, start a school from absolute scratch. What do you think let's go the hardest thing that you've done at the school versus the most rewarding thing? They might be the same thing. I know they're different for me.
Yeah. Probably the most difficult thing is just all the unexpected things that pop up. I mean, we didn't have a rule book to go by.
Yeah.
So we just started doing it and then realized something was wrong, fixed it. And then that was just a ongoing process. That was probably the most difficult thing. The most rewarding thing is definitely just seeing people become better and learn things and become excited and just become completely different people because of it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things Ashley was mentioning last night when we were kind of recounting everything that we've done, she said it's gotten to a point where she's trying to dissuade people from booking privates with you because they never want to work with anybody else.
Well, I think it's very similar to the way you are. It's just we have our own way of doing things. It's not necessarily by the book, and sometimes that's not a good thing, but it's very unique, and it's something you can't really find anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, I think what we are accomplishing and watching these kids, like we're literally running around igniting their passion, because obviously if they're coming to the school, they have some sort of passion for music, and it's really our job to find it. And that's why with our new curriculum being a focus-based thing where you can pick an artist or a production that we're going to be rolling out, I think is really cool. But it's awesome to watch these kids go through the program, and we have all those core classes, but then they're saying, oh, I really want to learn more about live sound. So we're able to kind of shift their focus with teachers who do that. And some of these kids, I had one kid the other day say, I've been in, he's already gone to a community college, a traditional university, and an online thing he paid for. And he said out of those 3 ways of learning, he has always hated music theory, was not interested in it, didn't want to do anything regarding music theory until he met you. Wow. And so you're igniting that passion inside of him. And now he's like, hey, can I get with Thor? What's Thor doing? Hey, can I sit in? Hey, anytime he's doing a session, hey, anytime he's doing this, hey, is Thor up there like mixing? Can I just go like sit? And I'm like, bro, like he still needs to get stuff done. But it's funny to just, traditional learning, advanced university, a community college, and online, all 3 of those ways weren't able to ignite his passion for learning. And that's something you were able to do.
Well, that's awesome. I know I've had some friends who also took no online classes, but community college, and just hearing that the way that they teach it there is, I was like, how are you expected to retain any of that information or use any of that information if you're just sitting in a classroom?
Yeah.
Like just doing the normal hearing a lecture.
Yeah.
You can't learn music by someone speaking to you.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of have to experience certain parts of the music. Let's talk about when the whole microburst thing happened and we had to uproot from Greenwood Village. How, when you first heard that, because we were already kind of fighting with that landlord. When you first heard that all of that was going down, what was your initial thought?
Here we go again. Someone's going to ask me to help him move.
Okay, so give
No, I don't know. It was definitely very scary.
Bro, you should never buy a truck. Don't ever buy a truck. They're gonna be like, hey, so give them a little bit of your background. What you did before you came on full time at KMG.
Well, I was a mover for about 8 years, and one of those years I had my own company, which was really the reason I started respecting KMG as much as I did, is because I had started trying to make my own company, and the people that I was working with just didn't have the drive or the follow through that I needed to actually be successful. And so it was really frustrating. And then just seeing a whole team that was just straightforward, go ahead. Nobody had any, like, if there was an issue, it just got taken care of. Yeah. It wasn't like, why the heck are you just sitting on your butt, just doing nothing? There wasn't any of that going on. Yeah. And it's just a good place to follow your dream. But yeah, so I was a mover, basically.
Yeah, it's crazy. So as you found out in the Homeless Millionaire, we found him because he became our piano player and then became one of my best friends through that. And then we just wanted to get into business together. So now I think because we've given Thor part of KMG, and he's in the ownership circle, and then he also. We're starting like 4 or 5 other businesses. It seems like every single time we get to hang out, we're popping up another idea. It's like, oh man, we got to do that idea because we're going to be able to crush it. You know what I mean? And it's not crush it to make money. Yes, that's a byproduct, and we want to make money as a byproduct of us just being us. But it's because we can really see a better way to get stuff done. We can really see a better way to do things. We can really put our best foot forward, and we know that we can change some lives and really move mountains, if you will, because we really have moved mountains. I mean, I'm not scared of anything at this moment.
Yeah, I can't remember at the point where it happened, but it gets to the point where there's an issue and you're just like, okay, let's deal with it. Like you're not scared anymore. You're just like, another one. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's hit it right now.
Yeah. Anything that pops up, you just have to tackle it. Like I always say in my meetings, especially my hard conversations, I always say I deal with things head on and immediately. I say that all the time. And I think I really learned that from just this team. It's a byproduct of this team being this team because we all deal with stuff head on and immediately.
Mm-hmm.
What's your big takeaway? Because I mean, you've been with us for a little over 3 years in this crazy, crazy ride. What's your big takeaway that you've learned? If there's someone else who's going to start a business with their friends, if they're following their dream or they're doing something along the lines, and you know how hard it gets, what are some of the things that you had to tell yourself kind of repeatedly? What are some of the takeaways? Some of the things that you really want people out there to remember so that they can hopefully, by listening to our story, get there just a little bit faster than we did?
That's kind of a hard one. Definitely, I'm sure you've mentioned it a number of times in your podcast, but just the perseverance and not giving up. That's really the only thing that makes us so much different, I think. I mean, obviously we have, a lot of different skills throughout the 5 of us.
Yeah.
But the fact that, like we were just saying, it doesn't really matter what issue pops up. We don't give up and we just tackle it. And as you just said, head on. You're probably the best at that. Just whether it's confrontations or whatever it is, you don't have a problem at all with that. But
No, I don't.
But it doesn't matter what the situation is. Just don't give up, and you have to keep going because there are going to be parts you have to go into it knowing that you're going to want to give up over and over and over again.
Yeah,
and you can't.
Yeah, well, and it just goes back to that thing I love hearing, and it was from an old Jay-Z thing, and he said, the only crazy thing that I did is I didn't quit. And I think if you're out there and you have a good thing and you have good people, just don't quit. I mean, you have to persevere. I think probably the thing that gave me the belief, because I remember what it was like when I was alone, when I was like literally driving to Colorado alone and I was embarking alone. I remember how much more scared I was in those moments. And I know that if I'm the best at tackling things head on and immediately of our group, that's only because I have the best team and I know what we're capable of. And I would say one thing that I would add on to the perseverance thing is find the right people and you can literally persevere through anything.
That's absolutely right. I should have put that in there because there's so many times where there's a situation where, for example, you want to give up and we have so many people to lean on. It changes everything.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's something I know I can attest to. I know you can. I mean, I've seen you cry. You've seen me cry. We've definitely seen the girls cry. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mitch has been right there with us. I mean, we're not, I think the other thing is we've all taken off our masks. Like none of us are like trying to be cool in front of one another. We're just each other. And if someone needs us, and needing doesn't just mean that like we get a pat on the back or a hug. Needing sometimes is like a full-on kick in the ass. I know that you've given me more than a few of those, like, dude, stop. Like, because I'm an eccentric guy, and that's why I think Thor is just such a great person to have in my life, because he's one of those people who can kind of break through my BS. And he's like, all right, this is what needs to happen. And I know that getting to that moment, that comfortability, if you will, with someone is actually really hard, especially for men, because when another man tells you that you're messing up, you immediately are like, you're messing up.
You want to fight?
So that's one thing that we've just never done. And I mean, we've had some crazy nights, but like we've never like looked at each other and had that kind of hostility.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, and that probably just boils down to like trust and respect. Cause I know like I literally trust you with absolutely anything in my life.
Yeah, likewise. And the perseverance thing, I think, goes for each of our relationships as well. Because there's been, I'm sure with everybody, I know you've you've talked about it with some of the other people, but just times that you want to give up on the person, but that thought, it might cross your mind, but you never take it seriously once.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Some of the things that will cross your mind, because another thing, I know I bring up like analogies and different things like that, but one of the things that I really like is Steve Jobs, is he says, and he talks about perseverance. He actually said that the only difference, he goes, it's not funding, it's not intellect, it's not the idea, it's literally the difference between a good company and a great company, or a company that is successful and one that fails, is literally perseverance. And he said, but it's perseverance to the point where any sane person would have quit. Any rational person would have quit. And I take pride in the fact that all of us are freaking crazy.
Yeah, no, you definitely feel that way sometimes. Like, when you decide that you're not going to give up, and you do feel like I am crazy. Why am I doing this? But you don't stop.
Exactly. Yeah. What am I doing? Well, we talk about a lot. We've got to plant because the harvest is inevitable. And sometimes we go through droughts, and sometimes it's an emotional drought. It's a money drought. It's a relationship drought. But the harvest always comes. And I think one of the things that we found is we really harvested the fact that we are rich beyond measure in the people department. And that's why I think we're going to always be okay. And we're going to be able to do anything that we want.
Oh yeah. It's our favorite saying. We have the best team in the world.
Yeah, that is okay. So so full disclosure, I don't know what order I'm going to put these in. We literally just drew names out of actually off the table. I crumpled them up. But so he just mentioned that. He said, we have the best team in the world. What we're going to do now is, through the different interviews, I'm going to find a way to try to bring that up. And let's see if they have the right answer. And Scout's honor, God's honest truth, I'm not going to tip their hand, but let's see if they say something about that, because we all truly believe in one another. We truly believe in where we're going. And we have the momentum to do anything we want now. So with that being said, I gotta, again, give a giant shout out to Zack Markle, one of my very best friends. I respect and trust and love this person beyond measure. And hopefully we don't have another homeless story. Let's try to put that one in the past. But with this guy by my side, I know that if I have to go to that place in my life yet again, I'm going to be okay.
Absolutely. And if everything fails, we'll make napkins for a living.
Yeah. we always say, look, we've got the best team in the world. So we could be door-to-door napkin salesmen, and we could be successful because the first rule in sales is belief. Never sell anything you don't believe in. And we absolutely believe in everything we're doing, in the people we have, and where we're going. So thanks again, Thor. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
We got to get this guy on here more. So we're going to, he just did a really cool thing, produced all of the music for a Brett Favre documentary on concussions, produced all the music for Livy K's new EP that's dropping in the UK. She just won UK's top model. She's going to be a superstar. She just did some amazing, like, all these photo shoots. I mean, I don't even know how big this girl really is, because another guy we got to get on here, John Gillette, he's kind of running point on that, but she's doing some just incredible things. Thor stepped in and just really made the music that is going to make this project just go to the moon. And then he's producing another girl with me, Colby Wolf. He just made her newest song, Scar Tissue. So I'm telling you, this guy, with all of his talents, look out for him. Your name on Instagram is Zack_KMG Life.
That's right.
And then if you ever need to email him, if you have questions about, hey, I need some composition work done. Hey, I need beats done. Hey, I just want to get to know you because you're freaking badass. His email is Zack, and that's with a K. That's the correct spelling. He is not Zach. So it's ZACK at kmglife.com. Drop him an email if you want to get in touch with him. But again, guys, thank you for listening to our story. We really appreciate it. And we're going to keep introducing you to all of the starring cast, the starring members of The Homeless Millionaire. Thanks, Zach. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.